Today, I'm going to present to you a current project from Berlin's Museum of Natural History. My name is Schneider. I'm a media scholar at the museum, and currently I am leading a project that was mainly inspired by our museum's huge insect collection and by the topic of accessibility. Thanks to the Europeana 2022 team for inviting me to speak here today. I hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded talk, and I look forward to the Q&A session afterwards. I'm here today to present a project that revolves around a door beetle from our insect collection. The project is how we transformed the beetle into a large-scale tactile model that is suitable for the visually impaired and also appeals to sighted people. The model is equipped with customized technology in form of intelligent sensors. Once touched, they trigger the playback of audio recordings. This allows visually impaired people to experience the model completely independently. So we took an object that was hidden in an insect drawer, like the one you can see on the left, an object that is not supposed to be touched due to its fragile nature, and we transformed it into an accessible experience. Next, I would like to give you some background information about our museum and about the framework for this project. So what's happening at our museum? This graphic tries to simplify in a very wild way some of the rather complex processes that are going on at the moment. The Museum for Naturkunde Berlin holds a huge collection of around 30 million objects. In the coming years, as part of our future plan, we will systematically conserve, digitally catalog, and digitize the artifacts of our collection. All this takes place within the large-scale project called Collection Discovery and Development. As part of this project, we will digitize insects, elephant skulls, dinosaur bones, fossil plants, meteorites, basically all the object groups we have. We do so because we want to create an open knowledge infrastructure that is not only open to our colleagues from the science community, but open to everyone really. Now, where does my project come into play? I'm in the area where the red circle is, so rather at the end of our development process. Me and my team are working with our already digitized collection. We are working in the Mediasphere For Nature lab. That's the name of the application lab for digital media at our museum. We're a small team. At the moment, it's 4 of us. And our main job is to create access to our digital collection. We promote project ideas that are inspired by our collection, and we explore all sorts of ideas of how to reuse our digital media. We make sure our media gets shared and used, for example, by other institutions or industry partners, but also artists, designers, and developers get access to our media through events like hackathons, for instance. Now, how did we get the idea for our door beetle project? This project got inspired from very different sides. Firstly, through our already digitized insects, we have literally millions of insects to be digitized. So we wanted to draw attention to an insect group or a single insect from our collection. The second inspiration came from our museum's education department. The department has been organizing tours for visually impaired and blind people for quite some time now. And for these tours, they have put together a very diverse group of objects. For example, a tactile model based on the Archaeopteryx from our exhibition, which you can see on the top right corner. When I asked my colleagues what they were still missing, they said they would love to have a large-scale insect for these tours. All right, inspiration number 3. In our Mediasphere For Nature team, we already had experience with creating a tactile model. In late 2019, we finished building a large-scale model of a saltwater crocodile based on a specimen from our herpetology collection. We are very happy with our model, but when it was out there for a while, we realized that there was huge potential to make it even better. For example, by making it look better and giving it a bit of color to make it more appealing to sighted users also. but mostly we saw potential in improving technical aspects, especially the sensors inside the model. The crocodile model has 4 static sensors at specific areas, and once you touch these sensors, and only then, you get audio information via headphones. So when putting your hand into the crocodile's mouth, for example, you get information about teeth or bite force. We realized we were basically missing a proper audio tour for the model, a tour that includes not only information about certain areas, but a comprehensive audio introduction of how to use the model and a few more storytelling aspects. Okay, so putting inspiration number 1, 2, and 3 together, we had our project idea pretty much lined up, waiting to be done. All we had to do was decide on an insect and find a project partner to build the large-scale model. How did we pick just one insect out of thousands and thousands that are available? We wanted an insect that people can relate to, ideally a domestic one that is very well known, one also children are familiar with or perhaps all have already seen in nature. The first candidates that came to mind were ants. Everybody knows them and has met them in real life, but their bodies are very delicate, and even when blowing them up to a larger scale, their antenna would still be a problem. They are too long, too thin, and when using a material other than metal, which we do not use, it is highly likely that delicate parts might break off at some stage. So we moved on to more compact insects like bees or bumblebees. Again, everybody knows them and has probably experienced them in real life. On top of that, they seem to be more popular than other insects, but when taking a closer look, they are simply too hairy. They are completely covered in hair, and when you zoom in even more, you almost end up being surprised that their eyes are not covered in hair too. Hair is not suitable for the kind of touch object we want to make. The surface should be relatively smooth, so it is easier to make use of sensors. And on top of that, we are aiming for an object that is easy to clean for hygienic and health reasons, obviously. In the end, we were lucky enough to find an insect we liked that had already been digitized. Thanks to my colleagues Eva Patschke, Eva Maria Unglaube, and Christine Malo, I really wanted to mention them here, we came across the model of a door beetle. It had been created in our in-house micro CT lab, and it was perfect. Door beetles are very common in our forests, so many people are familiar with them. They have a highly important function in nature, which is good for storytelling aspects. And in terms of their bodies, they are rather compact. They are hairy, but not too hairy. So we had found our insect, and finally we were ready to get going. Now we were looking for a partner who was up for a research project without knowing for sure what the end result would be. From the beginning, it was clear that the project would rather be a feasibility study than a project with a targeted product outcome, because we simply did not know if it was possible what we had in mind. So we put the project out. We put the project idea out there, and we were able to find a great partner for the implementation, the company called Werk 5. They are specialized in model making and have many years of experience in the delivery of accessibility projects. Werk 5 have an in-house partner company called Interactivescape, who have experience with object recognition or building human-machine interface environment, and that is perfect for our project needs. So we are very happy to have them on board too. Werk 5 is also partners of the initiative #GoInclusive, a group of qualified experts who design and produce inclusive exhibitions and products. They are connected to societies and associations for blind and visually impaired people in Germany, and that's why they have a big network of people who have already advised them in inclusive project work. Once we had found our partners, research work started on my side in the museum together with my colleagues from the entomology department, so that's our insect experts, we thought about what body parts we will focus on for the audio description. With colleagues from the education department, we discussed, for example, what size the insect model should have. And they all helped with the creation of the texts for the audio description. Our partners at Web5 started with their groundwork, so they had to find out what is technically possible. For example, how small can body parts be so they can still contain fully functional sensors. It was also very important to us to include our target group from the very beginning. So we aimed for inviting visually impaired and blind people to workshops. To make the first round of workshops with them more fun and more productive, it was clear that we already wanted to present them with a very early prototype so they could better test the concept behind the project, which means the full experience consisting of a model equipped with sensors that trigger audio information. Voila, that is what we created. Our first almost beetle-like prototype, poor thing, has no legs, no antenna, and no jaws, but you can already see the typical three-part division of the body of insects. So this prototype might not have legs, but what it already does have is sensors inside, a lot more important for us. Thanks to those sensors, audio feedback is already triggered when the surface is touched, and information about the part of the body that is touched is played to the user via headphones. The idea behind it is what I already mentioned, to enable visually impaired people not only to experience the model completely independently, but also in their own time. After a lot of in-house testing, the model was prepared for the first round of workshops. The picture bottom right shows one of our testers. We have received extremely valuable and fresh feedback. So for example, we found out that they liked the size of the object. The audio information about the physical features of the beetle was interesting, but they asked us to please add some more fun facts. So something a bit beyond purely scientific descriptions. And we also found out that there were still some serious deficits in the onboarding process, which meant that the audio explanation of how to use the model at the beginning had to be revised. After having learned a lot about the first round, in the first round of workshops, it was now time to tackle the digital beetle model again. So this model, which we had created at our museum, had to be fine-tuned by our project partners. Especially the surface had to be improved and adjusted to the surface of the original beetle. To do this, the model builders needed some high-resolution images of the animal itself to be able to build the perfect digital twin. So my colleague Bernhard Schurian from our digitization team took a series of high-resolution images. On the bottom right, you can see the original animal and its digital twin side by side. You might notice some slight differences. For example, the digital version, which is on the right side, has its legs stretched out. In this position, it's easier for users to feel the legs more precisely, so we adjusted it a little. And just to give you a better idea about the high-resolution images our team took, I'm now zooming in on the area marked in red. These images really do offer a great look at every single detail. Here you can see one side of the beetle's head with an antenna and a compound eye and some impressively long hair. Once the digital model took more shape, we started testing materials. For the main part of the body, we quickly found a very suitable composite material, which is sturdy and durable, and it's great for working with sensors underneath. It is also stain resistant, waterproof, easy to repair, and antibacterial. Even though we enlarged the model to 20 times its original size, there are still some very delicate body parts like the legs or parts of the head And for these body parts, we wanted to go with a more flexible material. We did some tests, and in the end, we found a material that has roughly the same feel as cable ties. So it is slightly flexible, which is very handy when touching the finer ends of the legs, for instance. So we had to build the legs a little bit thicker because the claws at the end of the foot were still too spiky, even when enlarged 20 times. So to avoid the risk of injury, we reinforced them minimally. Back to the main body part. For this, a big milling machine was first used to cut out the different layers of the two halves. Then they were glued and pressed together. In the next step, they returned to the big milling machine for finer work on the surface. For the labeling of the station, we worked very closely with our accessibility expert, Ellen Schweitzer, who advised us where exactly to label and in what font. So we used a mix of braille and embossed letters for the station. In the picture top right, you can see two additional touch-sensitive points that were added to the station. One is the small beetle on the left side of the picture, which is a model of the animal in its original size. When touching it, the user gets feedback on the beetle's natural habitat and its importance in nature. Next to it, you can see a scarab amulet, sorry. This is one of the fun fact topics that were added. That's what our workshop testers specifically asked for. When touching the amulet, you get information on the importance of dung-eating beetles in ancient Egypt and their cultural importance in Egypt. So what else needs to be done? We have finished building the beetle model itself. Now it has to be connected to the station underneath. Once that is done, we will hold another round of workshops with our target group, where we are hoping for more critical feedback on functionality in audio texts. After the workshops, we will adapt the sensors and audio texts according to the feedback and aim for our first public presentation end of October at our museum. So, looking at the model, we are very happy with the outcome so far. The fine details on the surface can be felt very well, and it simply looks great. In the picture bottom right, you can see the metal pole which holds all the cables that are connected to the interior of the model. At the final stages of the project, the cables will land directly in the station below, as seen on the left side. We went for a very small and compact station, so it can be transported easily. That was one of the wishes of our education department. What I would like to mention at this point is that the outcome of our project is by no means a finished product, but the result of a feasibility study. And we are aware that the model is inclusive, but not fully inclusive. As it is now, it has been designed to work for visually impaired and blind people, but not so much for the hearing impaired, for example. We already have ideas of how to make it more accessible for other target groups, and we are hoping to do so in a follow-up project. Our model is built in a sustainable way, and it can be changed and adapted easily. Our partners have equipped the model with a flexible content management system, so that in future times we will be able to add or change audio content or add content in other languages too. This project was only possible because experts from many different disciplines came together. In-house help came from our biologists, digitization team, the team from the Micro-CT lab, and the Mediasphere For Nature lab, as well as from our education department. Our external partners supported us with their accessibility expertise, and we had help from model makers and technology developers. Also, we received most valuable feedback and ideas from a focus group of visually impaired test persons who accompany our project. All of us came together to build an adaptable, intelligent tactile model that can hopefully show the potential of digital collections and how new technologies can extend and improve accessibility. Also, With this project, we want to show that digital objects do not have to remain in the digital space, but transforming them and bringing them back into the analog world can have a very inspiring impact too. To finish my talk, I want to show you at least one picture of a beetle that is still alive and has no collection needle or cables running through it. So here is a door beetle I found on a field trip just outside Berlin this summer. After working on this project for so many months, I was very happy to see a living beetle off screen. But I have to admit that I was even happier that it was exactly that size in real life and not 20 times bigger. Thank you very much for your attention and interest. If you have questions about this project, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your deeply empathetic presentation. Is it available by any chance as a link so that I could share it with fellow colleagues from Ukraine as we are experiencing horrors of war, trauma day by day, and perhaps we could also engage war refugees from Ukraine in getting in touch with this new technology if possible. It might have the capacity for healing traumatic feelings.
So I just thank you very much for this very lovely comment. I already saw that and was very happy to read it. That's the biggest compliment I could hope for. So I added a link there in the chat, and that is a little blog article in English. There's actually 2 blog articles I already wrote about the project that basically shows what I did today, step by step, how we approached this project and how we got there. The model itself and the audio description at this stage is not available online, but please just get in touch with me and we can see what we might be doing in the future and how we might think about maybe how a project for Ukraine people could be done. Thank you so much.
And there was another one as well for you, Tina. I have thought about a beetle. It would be awesome if there would be available somewhere in the future, maybe downloadable model to print at 3D printers at home schools.
Mm-hmm. We are going to, I'm going to add another link. This leads directly to the data portal of our museum. So we are at the moment building a publicly accessible portal that we try to add all the data that we digitize from our museum and make it accessible to everyone, really. So the data is downloadable. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, we started uploading a couple of 3D objects that can be downloaded. And in the future time, we also want to add our Beetle there for everyone. Not the model that the model builders did, but our original model that we did in the CT lab at our museum. So just get in touch with me and I can maybe talk to my colleagues how it might still take a while until it's available there, but sooner or later it will be available for everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience as well for joining in.